So hello and welcome to our second How To Festival Lunch and Learn. My name's Anna and I work for Flourish Together part-time, and I've been part of the team who's set up this online festival. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Kerry from Brilliant Thing, who is actually one of the contributors to the How To Festival, as is Morag as well. And she's going to be talking to us today, Kerry, is about how to create a network and grow your contacts, which is crucial at every stage of your enterprise journey. So first, I'll just introduce you to the How To Festival, because I don't know if some of you have actually had a chance to explore it. But it's basically an online version of a real world event that was done, I think it was a year ago. Were you part of it, Kerry?
Yeah.
In Manchester, yeah. So there was actual mini workshops delivered at a venue in Manchester that were organised around three sort of zones, which were health and well-being, social enterprise support, and creative and digital. So to make that available to more people, make it more accessible, we took it online and asked the contributors to do a short recording so people can go in and access those workshops and return to them and learn from them. And they're very bite-sized and they're really relevant to people doing, they give you shortcuts and hacks. Morag's done a great one on basic budgeting, but it just gets to the sort of nitty-gritty of what you need to know, and it's really sort of time efficient. So they're really great for that. We've also got a podcast library, a reading resources zone, and a bi-social area, which is in development at the moment, but we're hoping that by Christmas there'll be a good list of sort of ethical shopping opportunities. So we had a quick introduction just then, but for people who sort of came in late, and for Louise again, if you just do a quick sort of intro of who's who and maybe what you're looking to learn from, creating a network, growing contacts, or where you are in that sort of journey. So Nadine, do you want to?
Hey, hi, my name's Nadine. I work for Thriving Together, which is a brand new CIC set up for women impacted by gambling harm. I'm here today to just find out more, because we're in such early stages. It'd be just really good to hear some recommendations. I used to work for Action Together as well, Kerry. So I have some experience of development work. But yeah, but it's always good to learn new things and meet new people. So thank you for this invite.
Fab. Thank you. Morag, I know you're a contributor, as is Louise, I think. So if you want to just tell us a bit about where you are with Northwest Numbers. I know you mentioned there about having to get a part-time job, so maybe this is something that you're looking to sort of, grow with your network.
Yeah, well, as I just said there, I took a part, right. I'm Morag, and I founded Northwest Numbers CIC basically to try to help. I'm specialised in what I call socially aware organisations, charities, social enterprises, not-for-profit, etc. Small organisations that basically I don't feel have a lot of access. You obviously can't afford necessarily a full-time accountant. So what I wanted to do was set up an accountancy service to not only do the service for you if you want, but also could potentially jargon bust, train you to do it yourself more efficiently, etc., etc. So that's, yeah, as you say, my contribution is about startup budgets. And yeah, I've broken down a lot of my networking. I've not done so much of my networking recently because I took a part-time job and it kind of interfered with the dates that most people seem to hit a lot. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday seems to be very popular days. So yeah, so I'm kind of here to find out what else is on the portal, meet folk, etc., etc.
Cool. Fab. And Louise, are you forest bathing, Louise?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we hit a bit of a block, and I got funding to do some events and things which were really successful, and then obviously COVID hit and everything was all going up, and people were going out, loads of people were going out and doing forest bathing, but weren't particularly interested in someone doing it with them and doing stuff. So I had to really rethink a lot of the stuff that I was doing, and I'm an artist and I was working as a youth worker at the time, but I had to give up youth work for my health, because my health was a real issue. So I'm really at a flummox at the minute of where do I go? Do I concentrate on my art? Do I concentrate on because I do forest bathing every day, so when I can, but I also do my art every day, but I've also got this fountain of knowledge from my youth work, and yeah. So,
bring it all together, yeah,
bring it all together, because I keep like trying to accumulate all of them into one, but they don't always necessarily work. And I also miss helping people, do you know what I mean? Helping families go through real struggles at the moment. And I still research loads of stuff on youth work, and I've got folders full of information and stuff, so it's so I go on loads of these and get loads of new ideas, and yeah.
Great, thank you. Fab. Right, Kerry, that's your audience.
Thank you. Right, well, I'm Kerry from Brilliant Thing, and I was invited to talk a little bit about networking and building a network, but I've got a really great analogy for Louise-Anne, because it's about a forest, which I didn't know you were coming, so it's a good analogy. So maybe I could just start off with a little bit about how I developed Brilliant Thing, what it is, what it does, so you've got a bit of context. So as I said, I used to work for Action Together, but my career really started in participatory arts. So I did loads of arts workshops. I used to be on a bus with a wheelie bag with loads of bits of willow sticking out of it, and just doing like jobbing jobs around community centres and art galleries and schools and things. And I did some great stuff. I did an artist residency in the school for 2 years, and I did lots of like global health projects. And it was always around kind of arts and activism and social change and learning through being creative. And then from there, I got a job as a festival coordinator with a charity called Cartwheel Arts, and I ended up staying there for 7 years because I found out I was quite good at fundraising. But I think that really came from being quite good at storytelling and kind of sharing the work through words. So I used to, I write quite a lot. I have a blog, and I do lots of reflection and writing, and I'm a complete overthinker. And so I kind of ended up in this charity management role, and then other charity management roles came along, and then I worked for the NHS for a bit, again as a manager, working with communities and doing lots of collaboration between clinical staff and communities, and then got this job at Action Together, which felt at the time really exciting because it was establishing a new Action Together in Rochdale, and it was bringing together a lot of those things around collaboration and bringing people together and making things that were bigger than the sum of their parts, and networking and learning from each other. And it was a great platform to be able to do all of those things. And we created a fab team and really enjoyed the work. But as you can imagine, in that kind of role, I wasn't sitting on the bus making willow sculptures. I wasn't doing anything creative. So I used to try and shoehorn a bit of creativity into anything that I did, but it kind of got to post-it notes and felt tips, and then afterwards was a little bit of an uphill struggle to get, commissioners and things to do creative things, although we did manage it sometimes. And it was really at that point I've got endometriosis as well, so I've had some quite chronic health stuff going on and operations and things, and the work, Nadine will tell you, is relentless and really not sustainable. And so I wanted to grow something new, and the way that I've always grown new things is through collaboration and networking. and it was COVID, so you couldn't go to anything, couldn't do anything. So it's very hard to do anything outside of online networking. So instead of going out, which would have been my natural thing to do, I went inwards and did a lot of writing and reflecting, and I wrote a short story, and I thought maybe I want to be a writer, and then I did did lots of imagining and all the things that I could do. And really, in the end, it's come back round to what I'm really good at doing, which is strategy and coaching and helping people design their futures, working with charities, but using that creative approach. So doing lots of workshops with materials and drawing on all those years of being an artist, and making things with people to try and visualize their journey or the impact that they want to make. So I'm doing lots of strategy work at the moment with Minds in Salford and with some other charities as well. And I've got a program coming up called Cultivate Value, which maybe I'll touch on at the end. But now we're in a real space where networking and collaboration is really available, and people want to do it, and people are excited about it. So yeah, I guess there's a few practical things. So I'm part of a number of networking groups. I would always see what I can offer those groups, offer to write them a blog post, offer to include them in something I'm doing before I expect to get stuff back off them. But also asking for what you need, I think, is really important.
So have you found those online, Kerry? Are those groups that you...
Yeah, so I'm part of one called Networking, which has been really useful. And it is a paid for group, but I went for about 2 months without paying. They really like guests coming. And that's been really useful. And then I'm part of the NatWest Accelerator program, which is like a business development program. And that's been great because there's a whole cohort of 100 businesses or so. But then there's lots of other free ones as well, and local groups. And actually, I kind of by mistake went to this in-person business thing the other night. It's at the swimming pool where I go swimming. And it was amazing. It was like it was in Bury at the Village Hotel, and it was 2 rooms full of all these businesses in Bury, with all stands and things. And it was so nice, and everyone was so welcoming. And so I'm going to try and find some more places like that. But I thought it might be useful to share a little bit about, because I think that the networking bit is one part. And I kind of think if you try and do it on its own, it doesn't work. So I'd love to share a little bit more about the rest of, of that kind of getting known bit, if that's all right. Can I share my screen? Have I got permission? Certainly. So I wrote this blog post. I'm not going to read it out to you, don't worry. But it's about a forest ecosystem. So I read a book called Finding the Mother Tree. I don't know if anyone's read it. Yeah, I've got a nod. It's really, really lovely book, amazing. And it's all about this female scientist that in this kind of man's world of logging in Canada, she's the first person that discovered that trees communicate with each other under the ground through fungi, which is a very basic version of the beautiful story that she tells, but read the book, it's great. So it got me thinking about this idea of an ecosystem and how we might be creating this thing, this brilliant thing, but it's not going to survive unless it's got all of these other bits around it. So I did a bit of research into what makes a forest, and this idea of every action causing a reaction, and this ripple effect of consequences and impact kept coming up. So I had a look at the characteristics of a successful forest, and I'll read through them quickly and then go back and tell you what I think they mean. So one is that there's some kind of seasonal variation. It can be deciduous, evergreen, or both. It has a canopy that provides protection. It creates habitat for birds and insects and plants to thrive. It's got fertile soil, and it maintains reciprocal relationships between flora and fauna. so these characteristics, I think, describe a really great network or way of networking. So in terms of the seasonal variation, sometimes I really want to go and talk to loads of people, and sometimes I really don't want to do that. And that's connected with, like your cycles as a person, but also it's cold and raining and horrible outside. You probably don't want to go to an event. There's lots of kind of seasonal stuff that I think affects how we feel. And if you force yourself, you're not going to be doing your best work in those situations. So if you're thinking of starting a kind of networking campaign or approach, I'd maybe try and map out how you feel at different times of the month, how you feel at different months of the year, and think about what would the best version of networking look like when you're feeling like that, because you're growing these things, right? So they've got to start from you. And then the deciduous and evergreen bit. So deciduous meaning, it sheds its leaves, and evergreen meaning it stays green all year round. So it's really helpful to find the networking opportunities that are kind of place and time based. So for example, there might be a couple of people mentioned, so well-being, for example, or mental health awareness week, mental health awareness month are really good opportunities. There'll be events that you can network around, but then there'll also be the regular monthly things that you go to, or the regular monthly groups that you contribute to. So having a mixture, I think, helps keep things kind of fresh. And then having a canopy that provides protection. So I think this is about not just the networking. So if you're in that business development space, you want to have somebody, or be looking after your numbers, for example. You want to be looking after your like you might have childcare and things that you need to sort out. You might have other kind of roles in your life or responsibilities in your life that you need to make sure are taken care of. So networking at all costs is not good. So you've got to be able to have those other things, taken care of before you can invest in going out there and being with lots of people. And then the habitats bit. So I think this is about creating the conditions for networking. So if you might feel that you need, I don't know, things like business cards or physical things to take to a networking event. But I think it's also really useful to have your story, what you care about, what you want out of the situation. When I'm going to an event, I always say to myself in the car, when I next get back in this car, I'm going to have got 3 people's numbers, or got someone signed up to my course, or like say it out loud to myself in the car. Or like what you're going to contribute, because I don't know about you, but I'm really good at putting my hand up when people say, can anyone help with this thing? I'm like, all right then. And actually thinking first, like what I'm able to contribute and what I'm not able to contribute means that my networking is going to be better, because I'm going to be giving and receiving what I feel comfortable with. And then the fertile soil is definitely about you. So how are you going to nurture yourself? How are you investing in you so that you can do that networking and collaboration and building those contacts? And you can't do any of it without that bit. So if you think about, a plant in unfertile soil, it either adapts and changes because it needs to, it's not getting what it needs, or it doesn't grow at all. So I think that fertile soil bit is really important. And then the last one, maintaining reciprocal relationships between flora and fauna. I think that's this idea that, when you go to a networking event, not everybody in the room will be somebody who wants to buy from you, or wants to sign up to your thing, or wants to benefit from your service, but they'll probably know somebody that might. So what are the, it might be really useful. So for me, it's really useful maintaining relationships with HR professionals, because they're often the people that notice when a leadership team needs some coaching, or they'll know when their strategy is coming to its end and they're going to need some external facilitation. or that kind of thing. So who are the people that you know that are connected to the people that you want to know? I think is a really good kind of principle. So this blog post isn't really about that. It's more about personal development. So have a read if you fancy. It's just on my website. And I'll stop sharing. But yeah, I think it provides like a really good visual guide of all of those bits that need to be looked after to be able to do that, growing your network, growing your connections. So yeah, maybe I'll stop there, and I don't know if there's any questions or anyone wants to chat about anything. Go on.
I love it. I now know exactly how to do networking. It's brilliant.
Oh, amazing. Can you write that down, please?
Yeah. No, because I think because I've worked a lot with forests and the ecosystems and that, now I can visualize it of how I can do stuff, how I can use it. So, oh well, thank you.
Nice.
I'm buzzing.
Oh, can you come to all my workshops, please?
I know, because I don't know if you can see the background. I do like embroideries about the mycelium and the fungus.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember the word. That's the word, isn't it, for the fungi?
Yeah, mycelium. Yeah. So yeah, and I embroider it by hand. And now I can understand, like, you know, different. Well, I'll see it in practice. Let's.
Yeah. But I think it's that thing, isn't it? Of it's not all you. It's like all of the other bits as well. And
and I can see purpose to things that I've made that will open those conversations, and so thank you.
Maura, go on, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I thought I'd put my hand up rather than just. I'm never sure if folk are finished talking and you kind of like. Yeah, actually, I think this is. I love the forest analogy. To be honest, I did like that. I think it's come up at quite a good time for me because obviously, as I've said, I'm trying to get back into my networking anyway. And there are some groups that I go to where you feel like everybody's there just to get what they want. And as you say, you have to be willing to give as well as receive. But the other thing was, one of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is set up just a kind of like a community group. I'm going to be doing it on Zoom, a Facebook group probably, I think, where what I want to do is try and get a community where people can come and talk about their business and their potentially their numbers and stuff, obviously, because that's more my speciality. But I've tried it before and it just kind of seemed to die. So I think I feel a little bit like you've given me a little bit more of a direction on how to maybe build that up and start. And it's the starting of it and getting people. I've had people sign up, but then they don't contribute, and it's kind of how do you get them to contribute and stuff. So I mean, I guess I'm kind of moving a little bit away from the network. I am, but I'm not, because it's still a community group I'm trying to do. So I don't know what your thoughts maybe are on that. You've kind of given me some ideas, but what maybe you've got some more thoughts on that.
So I think what you're describing is facilitating a network rather than being part of the network. But having said that, I think you being willing to, you know, be in that space, maybe be a bit vulnerable in that space. If you're asking people to talk about their numbers and things, that can be quite scary for some people. So I think you modeling the behavior that you want to see, you modeling that contribution, that showing up, that consistency and regularity, give people confidence. And I think doing it, repetition is really good. So doing, you know, always being there on a Friday morning between 10 and 2 or whatever it is, you know, that helps get it in people's minds. But I also wonder, so when I left Action Together, I knew that I was really worried about the money. So I've been freelance before. I was, as I said, freelance artist, and at the time had less responsibilities, and I've now got, you know, we've got 4 children between us and a house and all of the things that come with the things. And I didn't want to, you know, it was a good job at Action Together. It was well paid and permanent and things. And so I knew money was going to be a real, like, I needed to get over that. Or I don't know, I needed some support around me in that point of transition. And so I enrolled on a course which I couldn't afford, and it all went on a credit card, but I've now paid it back, which was a money coach course. And that really helped work through some of those kind of blockers and those limiting beliefs. And, you know, and money hasn't been a problem, but I think it's not been a problem because of that mindset stuff. So I wonder if maybe theming your group to be around a specific transition point, or like a time when people are going to be reaching out for, like, it might be new CICs that have started up and are a bit like, oh, I don't know about the numbers, or it might be, you know, when people are transitioning from sole trader to CIC, as I'm doing at the moment, or do you know what I mean? It might be a specific time, but also you might want to theme, you know, this week we're talking about what were some of the themes? Some of the themes were like kindness at all costs, which is one that we as women do a lot. So we're like overgiving. There was a lot about like the conditioning around money. So why we think money, or why some people think money is scary, or, you know, what do we think about, like, if you imagine, she did this really cool exercise where she was like, right, everybody just imagine a really rich person in your head. And then she got everybody to describe what that person looked like. And they were all white, they were all men, or like dynasty kind of women, you know, like Jane Collins or whatever. And so there was this like certain look that people didn't want to be. So of course they didn't want to be rich, because that was the image of the rich person in their head. So then it was like, how do we shift that? So stuff like that. But I found that really helpful. And I think, you know, it was a closed group as well. So it was,
yeah, it's definitely a closed group. Yeah, it's definitely a closed group. You know, I wonder, it might be worth, it's an interesting concept, maybe even just to get folk to talk about different. I'm not obviously I'm not mindset as such, I'm the actual numbers, but maybe get someone else in for the different parts to kind of talk about it or something. That's an interesting.
Some of that mindset stuff is just being close to the numbers, and you're the person that would help people get close to the numbers, because, you know, you can do it in that unbiased way and maybe without some of that emotion that they've attached to it. So, you know, I think that could be really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Nadine, yes.
It's just a quick one, really, of just the thing that I took from your blog that was really useful is that having that time to reflect and think forwards, and maybe thinking about not networking for networking's sake, because it just feels like you've got to grab every opportunity, and just keeping yourself in part of that, so that, you know, thinking about those times of the month or those times of the year where you want to look after yourself, or would that be the best thing for you? And it's, you know, following nature in a way, isn't it? Do we really want to be going out every week as it gets darker and darker and it's horrible weather? We want to look after ourselves and start thinking forwards on other things. But the other thing I really connect with, Kerry, is that thing of making that jump of being in something that is financially secure but not really giving us anything, perhaps, and then moving forwards, because I'm a bit in that where I've reduced my hours and now I'm getting quite resentful or a bit frustrated, and I'm going, no, I really am going to cut off this point because I'm doing it for everybody else and not myself. So I really connected with what you were saying there as well. So thank you.
I definitely find a thing that's going to take you through. So like either invest in something or find a project that you're going to do that's going to take you from one side to the other, even if it's like metaphorically, because for me, that really helped. And then I think, so when I did leave Action Together, I started off by, the first thing I did was did this coffee date challenge thing. So I just said to anyone that would listen, I'm doing a coffee date challenge if you want to go for a coffee with me. Because that was one of the things that really frustrated me about my job, is that when somebody said, oh, like, can I meet with you or whatever, I'd have to be like, well, is it worth my time? Because the time was so tiny, and I hated living like that. That's not how I want to live. And I wanted to be able to go, let's go for coffee. So I basically spent the first month going for coffee with people, or like online meetings. And that was brilliant for networking, really, really good. And I met loads of people. But then from that, we kept having this conversation about work culture and like the cultures of everybody's work. And that's where I did an event recently called Culture Camp. And that was kind of more, I think it was still networking, but it was kind of structured. So it was, I really wanted to start a conversation about the importance of culture at work, and like the importance of culture beyond the work that you produce. So if you look after your team, then the work just happens. And I really, really believe that. But because it's quite a complex thing, culture, I wanted to have lots and lots of different conversations from different perspectives with different people. And so the Culture Camp was me basically asking loads of people if they'd have a conversation with me and I can record it. And then, you know, me thinking that I was really clever and whizzy with my tech and that I could do an event all on my own. And I did do it. It was really, really hard. But what it is now is this whole collection of stories about and conversations about one theme. So it was still networking, but kind of around the things that I wanted to be communicating in the world. And that theme is really important to my work as Brilliant Thing. So at some point you can lead that networking as well. You know, you can say, I want to have a conversation about this thing, and draw people to you and create that space where that's what's talked about. And then that has then informed some of the work that I'm doing now. So, you know, I think networking, sometimes it's being a participant, sometimes being a facilitator, and sometimes it's leading it as well. Yeah. Daniela's come in.
Yeah, I let you in, Daniela. Hi.
Hi there, hi.
You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, sorry. Sorry I came in a bit late.
No, that's okay. So we've got Kerry from Brilliant Thing who's talking about making contacts and growing your network. Do you want to just tell us where you are with your
Yeah,
organisation?
I'm just going to come online. Sorry, I was hiding. It's been a bit rough. Where I'm at, I actually came into the session at the point where Kerry was talking about going from, I think she said freelance, to then going to sole trader and then the CIC. Where I'm at the moment, I'm a spoken word artist. I've been freelance for years. I write and perform nationwide. And where I'm at the moment is I'm right at that kind of the brink of between freelance and maybe possibly looking at either sole trader or CIC. I probably need a little bit more information. I'm not 100% sure which, but I can certainly relate to, I've got 2 children, and I could certainly relate to that whole fear of the crossover. That's basically where I am at the moment. I've not done too bad freelance over the years. However, I don't know whether it's an age thing with me. I'll be 40 next year. I don't know. Regardless of age, I just feel like I'm at a stage where I would like to step it up again, go from freelance to stepping it up again. But I also have a lot of fears around that and the financial implications of that. And yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I like, one of my worries when I went freelance was that I'm going to have to do so much work to earn that amount of money that I had in a secure job.
Yeah.
But because I had I've got endometriosis, Daniela, I mentioned at the beginning, I don't think you were here, but because I've got these like health things, and just because like life's busy, how on earth am I going to, do more than what I'm doing already in my job? That was one of the things
just
that really got me.
you up on that point when you're saying about the endometriosis. It was something I was saying to Nicola. I've got polycystic ovaries, and every month I'm really suffering with my period. So I find that maybe say for that 1 week, a bit like what you were saying, Gary, you know, it's manoeuvring. How do I manoeuvre in that time when I don't want to leave the house?
Yeah.
Because I'm in pain, basically.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I listened to this podcast recently, and they were saying about it's a podcast called Needy. So if you've ever like not wanted to be needy, listen to this podcast, because it's about why being needy is good. Anyway, it was about how we kind of model ourselves on like the best version of us. So that day when, you know, everything's going right, you're not on your periods, the kids have been good, you've had a sleep, you know, all of that. And you think that that's who you are, but that's who you are on a good day. And then like all the other days of the month, you feel like you're failing a bit because you're not that, you know, that 100% person. And that really made sense to me.
Yeah.
But the thing about the fear, so I was really scared of that, as well as the money stuff. I was really scared of like completely burning myself out because I wouldn't be able to do it. And then this really cool thing happened to me, and it's not happened again, but somebody asked me to do a speaking thing, and they paid me £500 for it, and it was only an hour. And I was like, what? That's like, you know, how can that be that you get? And it was that whole thing of, before I used to think like, you do the work and then you get paid the beans, and then you do the work and then you get paid the beans. And actually that's not like, that's not how it works, because you'll know, won't you, with your performances, you might be paid for a performance and you might only be up there for half an hour, and obviously it's all of the work that's been done before. But I don't know, switching in your brain a little bit around that idea that you're going to have to be at your 100% best self all the time, it's just not true. I think men made it up. Yeah, but I feel your pain, and it's so rubbish having stuff like that you know you can't really do that much about.
It's, for me, it's really refreshing as well, because some of these things I thought were solely an issue to me. So then when at the time when I chipped in and I heard you say some of the things that I've also felt are an issue, it was just because you think you're the only one going through that. You do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also like, I went through a whole thing where I was like, oh, I've got to keep up this image of like, you know, doing well and being and being on video all the time and all of that. And actually things have got so much easier since I just like started saying to people like, this is going on for me at the moment, or, you know, this thing went wrong, no one came on my retreat, no one bought my thing, that thing didn't work, but that thing really did work, you know, just being a bit more honest. People like that. Yeah.
Is this a session where we're able to ask questions as well?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks, Anna. So what do you think, Kerry, made you just completely just go for it? Maybe I missed that bit. I came in halfway through the session. What was
I paid for some coaching. So I paid for a coaching course, and it was, well, I was saying before, it was too much money. I put it on my credit card, but it kind of wasn't too much money because now I've earned that money and paid it back. So it was fine, but it felt like a big like leap for me. But it wasn't particularly the course that I did. It was more that I'd like been like, right, I'm going to invest that time or invest that money in me changing and moving on. But I also did other stuff, like I rearranged my work week so that Tuesdays, I only work school hours on a Tuesday anyway because of the kids. But on Tuesdays, I didn't work for Action Together, and I worked my full-time hours over 4 days. So I like invested some time. I was like, right, that time you're going to spend developing this thing. So I feel like you need to invest time or energy or money or like get support or whatever because you know it's a fear, and you're not just going to suddenly wake up and not be scared of it. So you've got to do something on this side of it to get you over to the other side. So for me, that was paying for a coaching course and organising my time so that I could, you know, get excited about it. So it wasn't just another thing on the list.
Do you think without had you not have gone and done that coaching course, do you feel that that was the kind of motivating factor, or do you think you were ready, or do you think that just gave you the final?
I think you have to do stuff before you're ready, because if you do stuff when you're ready, then you'll be bored of it. Well, I am anyway.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do stuff
I know
before
what you
you're ready.
mean.
But
Yeah.
I don't think, I want to be really clear, it wasn't that I invested that money in buying the course that made me able to do it. It was that I chose to invest some money in buying the course that made me able to do it. You know, it was like, I was serious about me, and I was serious about what I was going to do. And I was willing to like take some risks for me. And that felt really good.
Can I chip in and say, yeah, for me, that was the same thing, because I went from like a full-time job to deciding to do the business type of thing. Okay, I've moved because the business wasn't necessarily giving me the money. I've done a part-time job, but yeah, I think you've got to make it's about making that commitment, whether and taking the mental step in your head that you're going to do it. And whether, as you say, it's investing either some time, or in your case, it was money. In my case, it was time to actually start putting the steps in place to try and make it a reality. Because the nearer it becomes to a reality, while you're still excited about it, kind of almost helps reduce the fear of letting go.
Like you gain momentum kind of thing.
Type of thing. Yeah, that's what it was like with me.
I really agree, Morag, and I think that's again why the networking really helps, because when you're in a networking space, you have to say, hi, I'm Kerry from Brilliant Thing, and this is what I do. So the more times you say that, the more times that is what you do, because you're making it up, right? We're not waiting for a boss or somebody to say, like, you've got a promotion. You know, you can say whatever you want to be. So as soon as you start repeating that, it just makes it easier, doesn't it, to like own it.
I would really agree with that. That's how I'm approaching this at the moment. There's absolutely zero money in the bank, but it's as if we've been running for a year, or you know, and people are like, oh, and there's this, and I'm going, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. But and it is a mindset, because otherwise you go in, this is what I'd like to do, so you're always unsure, but having that conviction of going, this is what we're doing.
So, you know what you just did there as well, it's wording. It's it's no longer I'm going to try, it's this is what I'm doing, because you've stepped into actually starting to do something, and it just kind of becomes and yes, it is scary. We're not saying it isn't scary. It's just, you know, kind of just try to, that's why I mean, I'm an accountant, you know, I'm like risk averse, you know, so it's like you just take one step at a time, and it just worked.
I think Kerry's right. If you wait till you're ready, it's gone.
Never
That moment, that sort of excitement, and it's already gone. So I think most people.
They say that about having kids and that as well, don't they?
Well, if you work out, if you calculate, can I afford children? You can never afford them. So it's just
precisely. So think of it a bit like that. Okay.
Lovely analogy. Yeah. Sorry. Great. Oh well, thank you so much, Kerry. That was brilliant. And excuse the pun, but that was brilliant. And if anyone wants to just stay on and give any feedback for the How To Festival, or how to get on, I don't know if you accessed it yet, Daniela.
I've only accessed this soon, to be really honest with you. I kind of woke up halfway through it, if I'm really straight. I was like,
no, that's fine.
No, but I love that you still came. You're amazing.
I had to.
That's great, and I'll do a follow-up where there'll be a link to getting on, and there's a password so you can access some of the workshops on there.
Great.
Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to stop recording if I can. work it out to.